We as a gun community have become obsessed with guns that are as refined as possible. And sometimes in that pursuit, we can neuter the guns a little bit. We love nothing more than suppressing our rifles to be as quiet as possible while having little to no back pressure. Oftentimes they wind up with virtually no recoil and match grade triggers. And that's all fine and great, but it can get a little bit boring. So today I'm here to remind you that the visceral nature of firearms is part of what makes them fun. And with that said, allow me to introduce you to the opposite of civilized. Greetings friends, welcome to the show. Hope you guys are doing good. Today we are talking about the FAL, specifically the OSW, and I'm gonna tell you why I think maybe you should consider adding one of these to the old collection. Now, my interest in the gun stems largely from pop culture. A gun just like this, and I mean like just like this, was used in several films, which we shall talk about throughout the video today, in addition to shooting the gun and show you how it works and doing all that fun kind of stuff. Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, the gun is manufactured and sent to me by DSA, or DS Arms, which is the domestic and only FAL producer left in the world at this point. So that doesn't mean I'm not going to come here and give you a fair shake. This isn't really meant to be a gun review. It's meant to be more of a tribute piece and just talk about some cool pop culture stuff. But it's fair for you guys to know that DS sent me the gun, and I'm very excited about the gun. Guys, we appreciate the support from National Armory. They are sponsoring today's video. They actually carry DSA FALs, so there's a decent chance you could probably find one of them there. There's also a decent chance you might even be able to find an actual, like, old school FAL there. The reason for that is they carry a lot of really cool, interesting stuff. We came across them on our Hunt for Gucci Guns Pittsburgh episode, and we stayed in touch, and now they sponsor some of our videos. So they buy a lot of like private collections. That's part of how they get so much cool, interesting used stuff, like the things that we featured in that episode. Obviously, they've got all the new stuff, so if you want all the cool guy, you know, whatever, you can go find all that stuff too. But a lot of the really cool, interesting things there is some of the things that caught my eye. You guys can plug in a code. It is 1911-1911. Please don't spell out 1911. That'll save you guys 10% off of their shop there. If you're in Pittsburgh area, obviously pop in. They got a killer shop there. But hey, obviously they got their website. Type in National Armory. You'll figure it out. Big old presence on the G broker, if you know what I'm saying there. So I would definitely scope that out. They got some great finds on that. So check it out. Appreciate their support. On with the show. So let's do a little bit of background first on the FAL before we start getting all into the weeds. So what is the FAL? Well, it has the best gun sort of nickname of all time, and that is as the right arm of the free world. I can't think of a better nickname for a gun than that. That is pretty badass. So it has its origins in Belgium. It's been manufactured since 1953 with over 7 million of these bad boys being produced. That's something else. It's been used by over 90 countries, which is if you think about it, that's damn near half the planet Earth that has used the FAL in some sort of military capacity or something of that sort. It was adopted by a lot of the NATO countries during the Cold War, all except for or maybe not all, but most notably except for the US, because we adopted the M14 versus the FAL. It's chambered in 7.62 by 51 NATO, right? Of course, so very common around these days. It's a proper battle rifle, short stroke piston system with an adjustable piston. That way you can tune the gas based on if the gun has gotten fouled up or temperature concerns, anything like that. Ammo changes, whatever that may be. Now, the OSW is the Operations Specialist Weapon. Typically, they come with a 12-inch barrel. Mine has an 11-inch barrel because this was cloned for a particular movie. Some of you must know what movie this is. Well, it's actually quite a few. We'll talk about it as we go, but I'm sure some of you have started to detect like, oh yeah, I know what this is from. So think of the OSW as the commando version of the FAL. Think of it like an assaulter carbine. So that wasn't a factory FAL mod back in the day. It was something that certain countries were sort of experimenting around with, right? Chopping down barrels to make them more friendly to, tighter confines, CQB, or, certain jungle environments, things like that. Most notably, Australia, Argentina, those are some of the countries that were experimenting with chopping down the barrels. Now, DS Arms, which of course is the really the only active manufacturer of FALs left, right, and based here in the US, they were really the first one to do a factory short barrel. The OSW came out around 2002, 2003, which if you think about the timeline and sort of where this was fitting into the picture, that was post 9/11, real early GWAT, right? Now, that was a phase where there was a ton of sort of experimenting happening with weapons. And one of the things that, of course, was happening was, short barrel 5.56, and that at that time sort of lacking some of that man-stopping power that they were looking for versus a short barrel 308 that, sure, maybe you're not shooting 1,000 meters with this, but a couple hundred yards and in, you're really ruining someone's day. This one, the OSW also comes with a Paris side folding stock. That way, if you were jumping out of a plane or something like that, you could make this package pretty damn short. So let's talk about if there's any sort of real world relevance of an 11-inch 308. So is there any practical use for an 11-inch 308 blaster like this bad boy? So when we think of 308, we think of shooting distance, right? 308 would probably be, or 7.62 by 51 would probably be the most popular sniper caliber in the world. I'm taking a guess on that, but I mean, it's certainly a very prolific and very widely used caliber. So we think of it at distance, but the OSW is not about shooting long range. It's about being devastating short range. And I'll give you an example of it. Going into this video, I had the curiosity to go, okay, I know this has been in a few movies and it's really cool and it's fun and it's violent and all this kind of stuff. Like, does anyone actually use this, or has anyone ever used this? Because, these weren't manufactured till the early 2000s. And so the information that I was given from a very reliable source, we'll call it, was that, we'll call it conservatively, 5,000 OSWs were picked up by the Mexican Federal Police. And I thought, that's fascinating, because that's a lot of guns. And I mean, it might have been closer to 7 or 8, but we'll call it conservatively 5,000 of these went to the Mexican Federal Police. And I thought, that's fascinating. These were full auto guns, full auto 11-inch 308 FALs. And so when the Mexican Federal Police were basically at war with the cartels, I don't know all the details of that, but you guys remember the scene from Sicario where they're coming back from Juarez and they're about to cross back into the U.S. and there's that basically cartel vehicle that's sort of tailing them, and they got the dude in there with the gun, dudes with the guns, and the Delta dudes and the CIA dudes and all that kind of stuff. They get out and they basically surround the car and they dump the dudes in the car. So that's pretty much what the Mexican police picked up the OSW to do in their engagements with the cartel. Vehicle stop, burn it down. And if that doesn't I don't know if that doesn't do something for you. It's definitely a fascinating story. I heard that and I was like, well, shit, I'd probably buy an OSW just because of that damn story of what these things were used for in actual practical application. That is just, that's the kind of stuff that gets me going right there. So 308 from a short barrel still packs more energy than a short barrel 5.56, quite a bit. It's going to be better at penetrating armor, barriers such as vehicles, and if you think about it, in a military law enforcement context, if your entire just unit or whatever it is that you are in is using FALs and they're using whatever, 20-inch FALs, and you've got the little short boy assaulter carbine here, look, you've streamlined ammo, mags, it actually makes some strategic sense. One of the benefits of 308 is it isn't a round that is like 5.56 where it's dependent on tumbling in order to be effective. The basics of 5.56 are, hey, the round must tumble to have, to be effective on target. And in order for it to tumble, it has to reach certain velocities. To get to those velocities, you're looking at a barrel length of roughly 10.5 inches, right? Which is why the Mark 18, I know, is 10.4, but that's basically where the Mark 18 came from. So 308 is not dependent on tumbling. It's basically a punch a hole round. We're just going to punch a big hole into whatever the thing is. So an 11-inch barrel is still basically a 300-yard gun, right? Beyond that, it's going to obviously start to tail off quite a bit. But if you look at these just rough numbers, right? So don't take this as the gospel. But if we were going to look at 147 grain 308 coming from a 20-inch barrel, that's cooking at about 2,800 feet per second. Now, if we chop that barrel all the way down to 11 inches here, which is extremely short, that 308 is still moving at about 2,300 feet per second. A big old fat round cooking at 2,300 feet per second that doesn't need to tumble, that'll wreck your day, my friends. And we can see the practicality of that just by looking at what it does to steel. Okay, so it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out the effectiveness of 308 even from a short barrel. Just to do a basic bro science demonstration, we'll shoot steel. We're at about, 35 yards away from the steel. We'll shoot it with two basically similar length barrels. So this is an 11.5 Sig Spear LT, and then we'll run it with the 11-inch OSW. So a normal reaction from steel looks like this. Steel does not seem particularly afraid of the 5.56. Now, if you look at the steel in the face, you can already see it beginning to quiver and get a little nervous about what's happening. You can hear that action racking and it's like, oh, this isn't good. And the reality is, no, it's not. So very dramatic difference in how the steel responds. You will also just notice, you see how right now I'm kind of amped up? That would be the other thing to really highlight here, is that, this is modern cool guy stuff with all the fancy stocks, and you got your cool Unity magnifiers and fancy lights and suppressors. And it's cool, like the gun doesn't move, it's great. But it's clinical. We all kind of know what that's like. You get this bad boy and you just feel alive. Most of the rounds eject right into basically where my watch band is. It's great. There's plenty of carbon that's just building up on this jacket today. The gun just beats you up. It makes you feel alive. Okay, so my interest in the FAL largely stems from pop culture. Obviously, super iconic military weapon, but largely from pop culture. Shockingly, it's not really been used in that many notable movies. A couple, which is what we're going to highlight. But first, we'll look at classic FAL, not the OSW. So if we look at the classic FAL, there really is only one true notable movie where you're like, yeah, that's the big one. And that would be Heat. So the gun is at the beginning of the movie, basically in the armored truck robbery. Tom Sizemore's face is covered, but Tom Sizemore has the FAL, as we shall now show you. So we got some Colts. There's the FAL. Has anyone else ever really thought about the fact that Tom Sizemore's character is the one that actually has in many ways, the most interesting guns? Val and De Niro running the ARs and the 733s the whole time, and Tom Sizemore gets a FAL and a Galil, which is kind of cool. There it is. Good, clean shot. 20-inch gun. And then things take a turn. So if you're going to get murked at point blank range, at least you know the 20-inch FAL is going to get the job done. Just a straight FAL Mozambique at point blank range. I mean, it's such a good scene, but damn, that one's harsh. Guys, if you like cool gear, and I like to think you do, I like to think if you look around, you'd see a bunch of stuff in here that Big Tex Ordnance carries. Big Tex Ordnance. Guess where they are? Texas. Small? Nope. Big Ordnance as well. Big Tex Ordnance. That's what you're getting there. Like EOTechs or hand stops. So if you needed to kit out an AR or an FAL OSW for that matter, you could do hand stops, or you could do all kinds of different things. Optics, lights, all those goodies, AR accessories, all that fun stuff is at Big Tex Ordnance. You guys can plug in the code 1911SYN. That'll save you guys 10% off of the shop there. Your order is shipped fast. If they say it's in stock, it's in stock, and I appreciate that, because the bane of my existence is I got excited about an order and then they're like, oh yeah, my bad, we didn't actually have that on the shelf. Unacceptable. Big Tex would not do that to you. So we appreciate their support. Check it out. We'll have some info down in the video description. If you guys are looking for any other ways to support the show, Patreon would be a great way to do it. The 1911 Syndicate is still a real estate business. Real estate's been not great in 2024. That would be an understatement. So Patreon would be a great way if you guys are looking for any ways to just, you know, make us not go bankrupt. That would be the best answer. Anyway, appreciate the support. On with the show. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the FAL OSW, how it works, how I've got it set up. So, short stroke piston system. You adjust the gas, right? You've got, I think it's 15 points of adjustment. All that happens up here. This bad boy will get screeching hot after, you know, even a mag. Yeah, you're definitely not going to be wanting to touch that thing. So if you're going to make adjustments to the gas, you're going to want to make them once the gun is either cooled or early in the day before you start shooting. Of the 15 adjustments, I think if you go to max gas is like 15, I'm probably about 10. So I'm probably, if anything, I may even be a smidge over gassed, but if it's too low, it might not eject, or, you know, something like that. So I keep it cranked up pretty high. You've got a couple of different mags you can rock. So if you want to just be awesome and just let people know that you really like to party, the 30 rounders are going to be what you want. These big sticks are legit. These are from DS. They're really tough to find. These bad boys run about 150 bucks a pop, so they ain't giving them away. They do run well. I would say they can be a tad finicky on the 30s, and that's, you know, that's kind of a known thing. I'm not anyone that just discovered that, but yeah. The 20s, they've got metal 20s, and they've got these polymer 20s. The gun, kind of for a lefty, from a lefty's perspective, you basically charge it like a righty would charge an AK, right? So you would be coming underneath and charge the gun, and then she's in business. In terms of what it's really like to shoot, it's pretty violent. It's pretty violent. You will notice the tone of your voice rises as you shoot it. The longer you shoot it, the louder. You're going to probably want to double up on your ear pro if you're running the old OSW there. A couple other things. I kept the kit list extremely simple on this. Obviously, it's got the pair of side folding stock because that is correct, and that's what should be done. It's literally, I've only thrown two things on it. It's got on an EOTech, and then it's got on the little Arisaka hand. It's not a hand stop. I guess it'd be a finger stop would be what it would be considered. That may be obvious why that's there, because I do not want to be going past that position right there. So basically that is my reference point where I just go straight up to that, and then there we are. Steel is just terrified. So you will notice when you go through your 20 rounds of 308 there, bolt locks back, you are good to go on that. Couple other just things to maybe pay attention to if you happen to be a lefty. So there's only a single side safety. I'm not sure if there is an ambi side. This one, of course, not set up with it regardless. So you're basically going to, you got a couple options. You can run same side, right? So you can basically run there, punch the gun out, or you could bring your trigger finger high, safety down, and then you'll find the trigger guard. It's really not a big deal. It's really not going to slow you down. So for any of the lefties who are going to bitch and complain about that, don't worry about it, bro. Just chill out a little bit. Charging gun, obviously no problem right there. When you go to bolt lock, basically there's a little paddle mag here. Easy, especially for a lefty. It's on our side. So basically you just rock out like you would an AK or I was gonna say MP5, but that's kind of its own thing. And then basically, hey, mag is going to rock in, and then there is a bolt release on this side. So this ledge right here, your caveat is you're not gonna be able to see it, so you're gonna have to tactile feel it, but basically mag will go in, and then at that point, find your bolt release. With the mag, it's pretty stiff. So basically you're gonna find your bolt release and you're just gonna push down on your bolt release and you're gonna be in business. Non-reciprocating charging handle, right? It's not a long stroke piston, it's a short stroke piston, so this will not move. It's a pretty simple manual of arms. Everything works pretty well. Okay, now let's talk about the real meat and potatoes of the FAL and pop culture. So the OSW, ironically, is in my opinion, the FAL variant that actually has the most significance in pop culture, which is crazy because it's such a, just a bastard, weird, crazy gun. So here's the irony. All three movies that I'm gonna mention, it's the same gun. And this is in my conversation with DS Arms. I was like, oh, that's actually pretty cool. So the guy there at DS Arms that I know, so he basically got a call from a prop house and said, hey, we need you to make us this gun. And he made the gun. He knew he was making it for a prop house. So he knew it was going to a movie. Didn't know what movie it was. Turns out that prop house just keeps using the same FAL OSW in multiple movies, including one very notable one that we'll take a look at. So the first one that I would mention, we're not going to show, would be Rambo. That would be the 2008 version. The downside of that is it never actually gets shot. So it's carried by one of the mercenaries. He's got the 30-round stick mag in it, looking super cool. Never really uses it, but it's got the Parastock 11-inch barrel, full deal. Next movie that it gets used in, where it does get some actual screen time, would be A Good Day to Die Hard. Now the movie is utter trash, but it's the last installment of the Die Hard series. Definitely will be the permanent last installment, given the unfortunate stuff with Bruce Willis there. But it gets used by John McClane's son in the Chernobyl gunfight. What's even cooler about it, so it does get some good use there, but what's even cooler is it's actually on the movie poster that we'll show you here. So again, same gun, but the big one, like the movie where you go, okay, yeah, like this is the FAL movie. For me, obviously, I imagine you guys have gotten this in the comments, but that would be The Town. Okay, so it's used in the finale of The Town to really good effect. Great scene, great movie. I think it's probably one of the modern gun guy movies that we can probably all get on board with and say, yeah, like that's one of the ones that we all sign off on. So we'll watch a little bit of the finale here.
Let's go. Let's get the fuck out of here.
So at this point, they basically robbed Boston Stadium, whatever that's called, Finley Park or something like that. And the cops are onto them. The FBI, everyone's coming after them. So now we basically got to start gunfighting our way out of this thing. There's the FAL, 30-round mag, curved mag too.
That's us inside.
So you'll notice he's got those mags jungle taped. So he's got 60 rounds of 308 on his gun right now. And you'll notice stock's not even really in his shoulder for any of the shooting, which is hilarious. If you shot this gun, you would know this is hilarious. Look at that, full auto, gun's barely moving. Look at that gun though. I mean, this is like true clone correct to the movie. DS did me a favor on that one. Swap that mag, right? So he did chamber a new, or load a new mag.
No!
Of course, he's gonna take a dome shot. And that's pretty much where it wraps up. So super iconic scene, right? Like of all the guns in the town, there's some good ones. At FAL OSW, that's the one. So how do we bring this all home? Why might you need an FAL OSW? Because it's a gun that makes you feel alive. I think anyone in their right mind who's a gun guy could shoot this and be like, there's just something fun about that. It's not sophisticated, it's not tame, it's wild, right? And that's what I really appreciated about it. It's like speed happens in different ways, right? You drive a Tesla and you're like, yeah, it's really fast, but it's really clinical, it's boring. It's like, no real men drive Teslas, it's like, and then you jump into a Porsche GT3 RS or a Dodge Viper or something like that, right? And you go, yeah, it's fast. Maybe not even as fast, but it's like the way that it delivers the speed, there's this visceral experience to it that really makes you feel alive, where you go like, yeah, it might not be perfect, but you're like, there's just something to this that works for me. I say embrace the chaos, and you guys would absolutely love, much as I have, running a freaking OSW.